Welcome to this video explaining how to configure network load balancing (NLB) using IIS, the Microsoft Web Server, on the Hyper-V platform. In this video we're going to be using NLB in unicast mode. This video will cover configuring the virtual machine hardware, as we need to allow MAC address spoofing on the network adapter, installing the NLB feature onto Windows Server. I'll show you how to do this using the GUI and in PowerShell, and then how to configure the NLB cluster in unicast mode for IIS. The requirements: all nodes or hosts in the cluster must be on the same subnet, as they have keep alive heartbeat messages. There must be no more than 250 milliseconds delay between the hosts, therefore it's recommended to keep in the same physical location / LAN. You don't your host to be distributed broadly across different sites, for example. The NICs must support changing their MAC address. That is what we'll discuss how to configure in Hyper-V. NLB supports between 2 and 32 nodes, so that's a good range of servers, and it only supports stateless applications. So for example, the web services on this might be information pages and not applications which the user is going to be inputting or changing the data, or anybody really on a regular basis. And Microsoft also like to point out that network load balance only supports TCP/IP protocols. So without further ado, we'll dive into the demo and see you there. So here is my Hyper-V server. As you can see, there's two web servers, Web 1 and Web 2. I'll first show you how to configure MAC address spoofing on the NIC. You need to right click on both servers, obviously one at a time, choose settings, go into the network adapter, advanced features, and enable MAC address spoofing. In a production environment you'd probably use two network adapters, one for the NLB traffic and one for everything else. In this example we're just going to use the one adapter. I've already set Web 2 to allow MAC address spoofing, so I'll head straight over to the servers. So on this first server I'm going to show you how to install the NLB feature using the GUI. Unlike many of the other roles and features that I heard, this one is just a feature. So I'll just bash through this wizard. This one will use Web 1. Skip past the roles, and under features is listed as network load balancing. Just check this box, accept the administrative tools option, add features, next, and install. And in a moment that will have installed. I'll just pause the video here. And it's completed the installation. I'll now close the wizard, go to tools, and now see the network load balancing manager is available. Load that up. And here we are with this rather classic looking console. I'll now show you how to install the role, or feature rather, on using PowerShell. So right click and start, choose command prompt admin, enter PowerShell. Obviously you could go directly to PowerShell if you wished. And it is install -Windows feature, as you would for any other role or feature in Windows, NLB, and I'm going to include the management tools for this server. And I'll just wait for this to install. And the feature has installed successfully. If I now close that, go to tools, network load balancing manager is now available on this host. Now proceed to creating the network load balancing cluster using these two machines. I've already installed the IIS service, so if I right click on Web 1, I'm going to do new cluster. And now I'm going to type in the name of my host, which is Web 1 in this case, and choose connect. And I'll think about it for a little bit and retrieve any IP addresses. And it's detected the interfaces on my device. Now if you've got more than one adapter, it will show you select the adapter that you want to use for the NLB traffic. Click next. So the order, default state for this in these testing purposes, I'll put as started. I need to specify a static IP address for the cluster. So I'm going to add one now. 192.168.4.35. Subnet mask of 255.255.0 is good in this case. Obviously you could add an IPv6 address if you preferred. Click next, and then we've got to specify the cluster parameters. So it gives you the option to set DNS, although it doesn't update your DNS entry for you. So for example, if I was to put www.example.com, it wouldn't update that for my site. I'd have to manually go into DNS and specify 192.168.4.35 is www.example.com. For this example, I'm going to go ahead with that. We're using unicast operation. If you're to use multicast IGMP multicast, you could choose that from here as well. Port rules are what specify which where the port's going to be directed to. So I'm going to clear the default rule out here because I'm only really interested in port 80. So any IP address, because you could have multiple IP addresses, I'm just going to do from port 80 to port 80, and we'll point it to multiple hosts. You could, for example, point port 21 to a specific host, and every other request for ports goes to whichever host gets it in the table. But I'm going to go ahead with this. You could have another rule for 443, etc. I'm going to stick with this for now. So I'll click finish, and it will build that cluster. So as you can see, the cluster has now converged with the one host, web 1. If I was to go to the internet now, and if I was to go check the local interface, which is 4.33, we can see there's a web page there. And if I now go to the cluster IP address on 35, we've got the same page, which is excellent. Now for the next part, we need to add the other server into a cluster, otherwise it's a little bit pointless. So if you right click on the cluster again and choose add host to cluster, I'll then add my next one in, which is host web 2, and click connect. So it's now found it. One thing to note is you may need to alter your firewall rules for it to find the other hosts. I just had to there briefly in the background. So we'll choose the interface again that we want to use for NLB. In this case we've only got one choice, and we're happy with the options here. Next. Again, we'll use the same port rule and finish, and we'll just wait for this to converge. And it's now converged. Sometimes you have to do a right click and refresh for the results to come on. It does normally take a moment or two anyway. So both converged with the both hosts hosting the same application. So for demonstration purposes, if we go to the file manager, this PC, C drive, inet pub, www root, and if we edit IIS start PNG, and we'll put a 1 here for server 1, and we'll do the same but put your number 2 on web 2. Normally we wouldn't do this in production, it's just for demonstration purposes to see which server you're connecting to. So, if I open up the internet on this and do 192.168.4.33, which is the local host here, you can see that I have got number 1. Do 192.168.4.35, which is the cluster one, I've got number 1 again. But I am on the same host obviously. And then on host 2, I don't like that. 192.168.4.34. So we've got number 2 and again number 2. If I then go to a third host and have a look, say on the web browser on here, I'm getting 2 each time. And this concludes the demonstration of configuring network load balancing for IIS using Hyper-V. Thank you for watching.